Hi, and welcome to the Focus Group Interviewing course. This course should be of interest to many IRL fellows and essential for those of you who are conducting focus groups as part of your research. This course fits within our broader thread of our IRL curriculum on research rigor. As you all know, the mission of the IRL program is to conduct research that can be used to take some kind of community or policy action. But the key is to conduct the research in the most rigorous way possible so that the evidence is credible and can inform actions meaningfully. So in that light, I'm absolutely thrilled that we have one of the nation's experts on conducting rigorous focus groups as our IRL course instructor. So I'm pleased to introduce you to Dr. Richard Krueger. Richard Krueger has his PhD from the University of Minnesota in evaluation and research methods, and he spent 25 years as evaluation leader for the University of Minnesota Extension Service, 10 years teaching evaluation research methods in the College of Education and Human Development, and also in the School of Public Health. Currently, he is Professor Emeritus here at the University of Minnesota. He has written 5 books on focus group interviewing. Most recently is the 5th edition of Focus Group Interviewing, a Practical Guide for Applied Research, which is the accompanying text for this course. He has taught classes on focus group interviewing for 30 years here at the University of Minnesota and has lectured at scores of universities around the world. So to get started with this course, we are going to have a conversation so that you can better understand how you might use this course as part of your leadership and research development. So Dick, what makes this class distinctive?
Well, there's 3 things. One is there's a series of video modules that are fairly short, between 2 and maybe 5-6 minutes. And these sort of give people a picture of a number of the steps and the aspects that are involved in focus group interviewing. The second part is a textbook that we're going to use. This is the focus group interviewing textbook that basically covers many of the critical things that can be used in doing focus groups. And then the third is that it's designed so that the participants can access the course in one of 3 different ways.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about those 3 different levels.
Well, we set these up so that people could pick the level that they feel most comfortable with, most relevant to them. The first level we call the basic level. And in this level, it's fairly informal. You go at your own pace. You have access to all of the material and all of the resources. And this is particularly useful if they have a member of the team that maybe has had some experience with focus groups or with qualitative research. They already have some degree of comfort. Sure. This is a good choice. Okay. Then the second choice is what we call the feedback level, which is one where there are 4 assignments that we ask people. Now, we've picked these assignments carefully because the assignments represent sort of 4 challenging things about doing focus groups. There's sort of an introduction to a focus group, the recruiting, the invitation to participate, and a set of questions. And in this particular level, we're asking people to work as a team and to submit these assignments. I'll look at them and provide feedback. And hopefully things will go more smoothly with that. Then the third level is one that if they're doing a more intensive kind of a level and they want some additional coaching, we call this the coaching level, where we can interact on very specific kinds of issues or problems that might arise during the course. This is one that I would recommend that if you have one where the consequences of the study are fairly significant or there's a fair amount of resources being invested and you want to be sure that it's done well. This is a good choice for that particular level.
That's great. Thank you for providing that flexibility to our fellows. So for IRL fellows who are preparing to undertake focus groups, can you give a little preview about what is the hardest part of doing focus group research right?
You know, that's a good question because most people assume that it's the moderating of the group, and that can present challenges. but in fact, the hardest thing, and I say this based on listening to hundreds of students who have gone through and have done it, it's the recruiting. It's getting people to show up for the focus group.
Yeah.
That is clearly one of the problems, and that's why in the assignments, that figures very prominently, how to invite people to come in. Yeah. The second big problem is the developing of questions. This is a challenge because in a focus group, we focus the questions so that the most important ones occur midway in the focus group. And there are a number of modules that talk about it, but this is a hard one to do, and it's often challenging. And so those two items, the moderating is one that sort of takes care of itself, but the recruiting and the questions, those are the tough ones.
All right, good to know. Then
Yeah.
we're happy that you'll be talking through each of these tough pieces throughout the course. So many of our IRL teams want to add some kind of qualitative element to their project because they want to elicit community perspectives. That's really the objective of a lot of our IRL projects. So can you explain how a focus group would differ from an individual qualitative interview?
You know, that's a good question because a focus group has some of the advantages and also some disadvantages. It creates sort of an environment where people can say things and it spurs the ideas of other people. It stimulates thinking among others within the group in terms of finding solutions or strategies or helping them recall differing kinds of things that might have happened in the past. What we find is that in focus groups, we often get a richer, more in-depth kind of answer than we would just from an individual interview. But there's a downside too. One of the downsides is that if it's a sensitive topic, if it's a personal topic, you're not able to be completely confidential because there are other people in the room and they will hear it. And so if it's a sensitive topic, you're better off going with individual interviews. But if it's a topic that people are comfortable with in a discussion, there's a lot of richness that comes out of the focus group.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's really helpful. So some of the teams in the IRL program may not have even thought about using focus groups in their research originally. They may want to add it on later on to their projects, or they might just be wanting to use focus groups later in their career, in a subsequent project, 5, even 10 years down the road. So can you tell us a bit more about why someone would make the choice to use focus groups in their study design?
Yeah, I think there's a couple times where it really helps. Like if you're doing an exploratory study and you're kind of wanting to know the lay of the land and how things are working. You're doing a mixed method study and you know you have a quantitative side and you also want a qualitative side to add the richness. That also makes it very effective. One that I see quite often is when people are really planning on doing a survey and they use focus groups to help be sure the questions are the right questions and the answers, the response categories are the appropriate one. But there's one thing that has struck me as being one of the great assets of focus groups, and it's something that people often don't think of. And I call it a side effect. It isn't, the main effect, the thing that you're trying to get when you do focus groups is you're trying to get answers to certain questions. But there is a side effect that happens, that when you involve people in a discussion, something happens to those people. They become more familiar with the topic. They become more committed to the topic. They're more interested in the topic. And in the area of public health, so often the solutions lie with getting people mobilized to work together to do something. It isn't just finding the answers, it's getting the community to buy in, accept it, and move it forward. And the fascinating thing about focus groups is it gets people inside. The fact that you are respectfully honoring them, listening to them, they appreciate that. And they're with you then. They're supportive of what you're finding. So when it comes time to the findings, it's like, hallelujah, we're with you all the way. This is really an important kind of an endeavor. And one of the things that I've seen regularly with focus groups is that it's a good way to engender that support from, whether it's the target audience, whether it's with other professionals or staff member. By honoring them, by listening, you learn new things, it improves the research, but it also gets a lot more people on board.
Yeah, Right, that's great. And
Yeah.
that kind of mobilization is really the goal. So,
Well, it helps.
Right.
It makes things,
One goal, yeah.
it makes one goal. But in all of research, it isn't just finding the answers. That is important, without doubt. But it's getting it into action.
Yeah.
That is where the challenge is.
yeah, absolutely. All right. So this is going to be a great research modality for our fellows to have in their research toolkit. So I thank you in advance
Thank
for your
you.
excellent
I'm
instruction.
looking forward to it. I think we're going to have some exciting times
Yeah.
as we go forward.
All right, so we'll get started. And as you can see, the course is broken up into 20 very short videos that you can watch in small bite-sized pieces, which I think is really helpful. And the very first video that you'll get to is a more in-depth introduction to what a focus group is. So we hope you really enjoy the course, and thank you very much.
Thank you.